Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Maple Conservative Girl podcast. I'm Danica, and today I am breaking down some of the biggest questions shaping Canada's future right now. From Mark Carney's trip to Armenia for a major European summit on climate and energy policy, to the growing push for net zero frameworks, to Canada's ongoing dependence on pipelines and energy exports tied almost entirely to the United States. Because while we hear a lot about global leadership, climate alignment with Europe, and long-term energy transition plans, most Canadians are still asking very real, very immediate questions. Like, why is our cost of living still so high? Why does housing remain so out of reach for so many Canadians? And whether Canada is actually strengthening its economy or slowly shifting its priorities away from its biggest trading partner and most important energy relationship. But we're expected to believe that they're building Canada strong? What does all this mean for Canada's future in oil, gas, trade, and economic stability? So if you like this episode, please share with somebody who you think might benefit from listening to this, and let's get right into it. So Mark Carney has once again gotten on a plane to jet set around the world, and right now he is attending the European Political Community Summit in Yerevan, Armenia. According to the Prime Minister's office, his goals are to strengthen cooperation with European allies, focus on Ukraine's defense and European security. Why? Expand trade and investment ties with Europe, position Canada as a partner for critical minerals, energy, defense industries, and advanced technology, which is quite laughable, honestly. Canada is also notable here because it is the first time a non-European country has ever been invited to this summit. So listen to what Mark Carney has to say at this summit.
We are an energy superpower, third largest oil producer, fourth largest natural gas, largest hydro renewable base. We're committed to addressing climate change while providing reliable, affordable energy to our citizens and partners.
He says that we are an energy superpower because of our natural resources, our oil and gas. We're committed to combating climate change while supplying the world with our affordable, reliable energy. Are we? Are we really? First of all, Canada can technically supply Europe with oil and gas today, but only in limited amounts and not as reliably or cheaply as pipeline-based exports to nearby markets like the United States. To scale up meaningfully, Canada would need major infrastructure expansion, especially LNG export capacity on the Atlantic coast. And pipelines. We need pipelines. Canada sends the overwhelming majority of its crude oil exports to the United States, so much so that it's basically a North American integrated market rather than two separate ones, because we don't have pipelines east to west. We are structurally tied to America, whether we like it or not.
In closing, we're here because of your invitation. Again, thank you for that. But we're here because of the moral and security imperatives of our cooperation in the Caucasus, in the Baltics, in Ukraine, across Europe, and also because of the immense potential for our partnerships to build a better, more prosperous, sustainable, and just world for our citizens. And I'll close with this. It's my strong personal view that as the international order will be rebuilt, but it will be rebuilt out of Europe. And so I'm very appreciative of the...
He says that it's his strong personal view that the international order will be built out of Europe. Europe is on the whole other side of the world, and Europe, I'm sorry, but it is not doing very good at the moment. Their economy is not doing well. Just look at the protests. The huge trucker protests because the governments are impoverishing the people by imposing a carbon tax on the farmers and the truckers. They are aggressively pushing net zero policies. Net zero is central to Europe's industrial strategy, and that's why it's not doing so good. And they have the same view as the Liberals on immigration. They have high migration, which puts pressure on housing and services. The cost of living is absolutely insane. Does it sound familiar to you guys? Mark Carney attending a major European summit focused on climate policy, energy transition, and net zero targets? I mean, why is he prioritizing this? Canada moving closer to Europe's economic and climate model instead of focusing on North American energy trade is not good for our society, our economy, our industry. Canada cannot realistically replace the United States with Europe as its primary economic partner, and shifting trade focus too far towards Europe would create friction in the short term because the US is deeply embedded in Canada's economy in a way that Europe simply is not. Europe is pushing aggressive net zero policies, but it's also dealing with slower economic growth, high energy costs, and ongoing political tension over how fast that transition should happen. And the people are not happy about it. At the same time, Canada remains one of the world's largest energy exporters, but over 95% of our oil still goes to the United States. We should be strengthening our core energy relationship with America over prioritizing climate policy alignment with Europe. This is my opinion. America remains our largest and most important trading partner. Yes, of course, we can diversify our trade around the world, but Mark Carney is not signing free trade agreements anywhere. He's signing MOUs and agreements to work in the future, which is not worth the paper that they are written on. It's irresponsible and stupid, quite frankly, in my opinion, that Canada is focusing on shifting further towards Europe's net zero economic framework at a time when Europe itself is facing serious economic pressure, when America is right beside us. Elbows up, everybody. This is literally what elbows up means. It means net zero, it means becoming a part of the EU, and isn't it funny how it's a total insult to be called the 51st state because Canada is sovereign, yet becoming part of the EU? No problem! What a bunch of hypocrites.
Pleased to report to this House that the dream of Canada is alive and well, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, young people increasingly see themselves in building Canada strong, and we will be there with them, Mr. Speaker.
It is about building Canada strong for all.
This economic statement will supercharge the skilled trades across Canada to help build and assist the much-needed infrastructure.
We're going to grow the Canadian economy. We're going to invest in those projects.
This is the thing. It's the same complacency. It's the same very top-down, government-directed, state-run pension investment funds and this kind of thing. There's really not any sort of new development policy and no sense of the seriousness of the situation we're in. This long-term, decades-long decline we've seen, when you cannot grow faster than 1.5, 1.6% per year, you think it's a good year if it grows 1.7, you're not going to be able to finance the kind of major defense buildup we're seeing. So we have long-term fiscal needs that the only way we can address them is with faster growth, and we've got nothing in the pipeline to actually make the economy grow faster.
All the Liberals always have to say is that they're doing amazing. Their plans are working. Everything is just going amazingly, everybody. Forget about the actual statistics. Forget about that. Listen to us. We know what we're doing. Here's a handout because actually we failed at affordability. Seriously, they literally are constantly gaslighting us, saying that they're building Canada strong. How? By going around the world signing meaningless MOUs and so-called deals and agreements? We don't need to be at a European summit. We need to be down in America making a deal with Trump, working with the Trump administration. But this is not Carney's plan. He does not want a deal with America. And I've been saying this since the beginning of my podcast. And at first, I naively thought that it was because he simply wanted to use Trump as a fear tactic to win a majority government. And yes, I still think that's true. But now that he has an undemocratic, unelected majority government through backroom deals and floor crossers, he's still not getting a deal. And he did not need a majority government to get a deal with America. And by the way, If Trump was doing what Carney is doing now with regard to like the majority government thing, the floor crossers and all that, the left would call him a dictator. Where's the outrage? He is intentionally moving away from the United States, from oil and gas, suppressing our potential and our prosperity for a new world order with Europe, which the net zero agenda they're pushing will need to rely on China, which is another superpower, basically moving from one superpower to the next, America over to China, a communist dictatorship that uses forced labor to produce cheap goods. Sounds like a bad joke or like a movie or something. He wants to move towards Europe and China and away from America to push through his net zero agenda and claim that we're an energy superpower, while simultaneously taking no clear stance with regard to building the infrastructure needed to make Canada prosperous and an actual energy superpower. All as we rely on America for our oil and gas exports. Elbows up, everybody.
The U.S. Ambassador Pete Huckstra is suggesting that allowing American alcohol back on store shelves could lead to movement on tariffs. Do you think it's finally time that premiers like Doug Ford reconsider this policy if it means movement on tariffs?
I think it's time for Mark Carney to actually do something. Like, let's be honest, we have a $1.2 trillion trade relationship with the United States. Alcohol exports from the U.S. to Canada are less than $1 billion. So let's focus on the big picture.
Canada should be focusing more on strengthening its core economic relationship with the United States. This is the conservative view because this is our largest trading partner by far. Rather than shifting more attention towards European-style regulatory and climate frameworks at a time when Europe itself is dealing with slow growth, high energy costs, and internal political pressure, why are we doing this? Canada should be focusing more on making us strong enough to actually have a voice on the world stage. Right now, what is Mark Carney doing there? What is he getting of value for Canadians? Like, honestly, we should be making our Canada strong on the ground here. But of course, as we all know, this man is a globalist elite with a green agenda. Not because they actually care about the earth and the butterflies and all the animals and the trees, but because they're all invested in green technology and energy. Follow the money. None of this is about rejecting climate policy, by the way, or international cooperation. It's about balance. A country can pursue long-term environmental goals while still prioritizing affordability, competitiveness, and energy security at home. It's just not going to take as much, it's going to take a little bit longer than they're pushing through this net zero agenda before we're ready to receive it. You know what I mean? Like, we can actually build Canada strong at home. We need to, because do you think that the single mom working 2 jobs just to put a roof over her kid's head gives a damn about the climate? No, she doesn't. She's just trying to survive. And when you're just trying to survive because you're in poverty, caring about climate and green tech is a luxury. Like, we're not thinking about this because we're too busy being lined up at the food banks. We're too busy working 3 jobs just to put a roof over our heads. We're too busy with the stress of losing our houses because the mortgage is too high. Where are the results? Seriously, what has Mark Carney's government accomplished with regard to making life more affordable and safe for Canadians? Seems like he doesn't even want that for Canadians. And really, after all this whole net zero kind of stuff that's happening, how has the earth improved? Is life actually getting more affordable? Is the economy becoming more productive? And is Canada becoming stronger? Or just more aligned with global policy frameworks that don't always reflect domestic realities? There has literally been no progress at all. It just looks like there's progress, but really there's nothing. Nothing has changed. Everything is getting worse. Like housing, crime, our trade with America, the trade, all the agreements that he's making abroad is not really bringing anything to Canadians because we still trade the same amount with America than we did a year ago, 10 years ago. And I mean, what is he thinking? We're just going to take our trade from 75% plus with America and like diversify it to the rest of the world and like not trade with America anymore? Like, how realistic is that? It's not. There has been no progress. So yes, Polyev is right to criticize Mark Carney's education and say that he's badly educated in economics. Who cares if he went to Harvard or Oxford? The fact that he went to these prestigious schools and that he's still terrible at running this country makes it all even worse. But he makes it look like he's doing a good job, when really he's not. He hasn't done anything.
And in an interview with the Canadian press, the Prime Minister said that a new pipeline is more probable than possible. How optimistic are you that this will happen?
More probable than possible. He said he was going to approve projects at speeds not seen in generations. He's been Prime Minister for a year, and he still hasn't even made up his mind whether he supports a pipeline. You know, there's no permit, there's no route, there's no start date, no completion date, no starting point, no end point, and not even a decision by the Prime Minister whether he wants a pipeline at all. And he's wasted an entire year. A pipeline to the Pacific would move $30 billion of oil every year. That's more than our total annual exports to China. So why is Mark Carney still blocking it? You know what this pipeline needs to happen? It needs only one thing: for Mark Carney to get out of the way. It is wildly profitable. It doesn't need any government handouts. It just needs a permit to go ahead. Let's get rid of the industrial carbon tax, the anti-development law C-69, the ban on shipping energy off the north coast of BC, grant the permit today, get the project built so that we can start shipping our oil to the world at world prices, making us stronger, richer, more affordable and self-reliant.
All of that lines up to it's more likely than not, which means more probable than possible, but none of that says it's certain. Still a lot of work to be done.
And the key difference between the Conservatives and the Liberals is that the Conservatives see oil and gas as something that we should be using. We believe that we should be building pipelines across the country from east to west, building refineries, and we believe that we should be relying on our own energy and building, yes, at speeds not ever seen before, which is not happening right now, by exporting our oil to the world markets, because the reality is that the whole world still relies on oil and gas. Like, why are we importing oil instead of building up our own industry? Building pipelines and refineries within this country would create construction jobs in the short term and create long-term energy sector jobs that would generate tax revenues. If a pipeline were built by a private company, they would have to pay major taxes. Get the government out of the way and let people build. Socialism does not work in big countries. We believe in a transition, not a shutdown of oil and gas. I mean, if we don't produce here, we're buying from somewhere else, right? Because whether we like it or not, the entire world still relies heavily on oil and gas. We can't just make it, imagine if it just disappeared overnight. Just imagine if like one day we wake up and there's no such thing as oil and gas anymore. Like, what would we do? Like the whole world would collapse. We don't know how to live without oil and gas. But the difference is that the Liberals, they don't like the billionaires, which is why they stand in the way. They want everything to pass through them. They want to be the CEO of this country. And as Pierre Poilievre has stated before, they want industry to kneel before the king. They want to have their hands in it, and they want to take our taxpayer money and choose themselves what industries to subsidize. You cannot build a strong Canada through government subsidies. Socialism doesn't make for a strong country. It's all about power and control and suppression of the people. And Mark Carney has a net zero agenda that he wants to ram down our throats. They frame oil and gas as bad for the world and we need to transition, even if that means impoverishing the people, because apparently the planet will burn if we build pipelines and bring wealth to this country in the form of oil and gas. Except everyone's using oil. China's still burning coal. India too. Do you think Iran cares about climate, or Qatar, or Venezuela? No, nobody else cares about that. Why are we not taking advantage of what we have right now? Why are they not building pipelines, getting out of the way, building infrastructure at speeds not seen before? Why do we have to impoverish our people in Canada for this ideology? Because they want Canada to set the example for the world? We're going to be an energy superpower, everybody. Please. We could be an energy superpower right now, but we will never be with regard to renewables. So ask yourself this. Has Canada's net zero strategy actually worked? Take EV battery plants, for example. This was supposed to be the centerpiece of Canada's green industrial future. Billions in subsidies, big, huge announcements, photo ops, the whole shebang. And then you get a company like Northvolt collapsing before the project even gets really off the ground. That's not a little hiccup. That's a warning sign, a sign that nobody wants EVs. But they take our money and subsidize companies that are literally going bankrupt. Now, to be fair, not everything is failing. There are plants being built, some are even producing. But here's the issue. This entire strategy depends on demand that hasn't fully materialized yet. EV adoption is growing, but not nearly at the pace the governments were betting on when they started writing these massive subsidy checks, and the entire world still runs on oil. It underpins transportation, cars, trucks, planes, ships, agriculture, plastics and chemicals, heating, global supply chains. It's deeply embedded in the modern economy. And like I said before, just imagine if we didn't have oil one day. Just imagine if it all just disappeared. Like, what would the world do? And we could be profiting off our oil supply. This isn't just about climate policy. It's industrial policy. The government is trying to pick industries of the future and build them early using taxpayer money to speed things up. Sometimes that might work, but sometimes you're just early, and being early in business can look exactly like you're wrong. And then you look at wind and solar. Yes, capacity is growing, but these systems, they're not good. It comes with intermittency, grid constraints, and the need for backup power generators, often from the same fossil fuels we're supposedly supposed to be transitioning away from. And they always look to Europe. Oh, Europe is heading towards EV and electrification. Europe does not have negative 30 degrees in the dead of winter. What, 6 hours of sun in January we have here? And Canada is a big, huge country. Way bigger than each European country. Like, all of Europe combined is smaller than Canada. So what you end up with is this kind of contradiction at the heart of the whole net zero push. On one hand, we're told that this is urgent and necessary and transformational. On the other hand, the execution of this net zero is uncertain, expensive, and heavily dependent on government support. And in my opinion, if an industry depends on government support, it's a failure. We are spending billions chasing a future that might not arrive on the timeline that we've been promised. This net zero agenda has not been a clear, undeniable success. It's been a high-risk, long-term bet. And right now, Canadians are the ones funding it. Why? Brookfield benefits from the push towards net zero, which Carney chaired this company. He's invested in this company. This is the conflict of interest. But the blind trust, everybody. Please. He knew exactly what was going into his blind trust when he put his assets in there. The bottom line is that Mark Carney has not made his position on pipelines or trade with America a priority at all, and he hasn't even made his position clear to us. We don't know what's happening. We don't know what he really truly wants, and if he really wants to build a we know that he doesn't want a pipeline built. We know that, but he hasn't made his stance clear. He's so wishy-washy. We know that he doesn't want to get a deal with America, but he still hasn't made clear on what he wants to do. The world doesn't care if the energy that we have is clean or not. The world only cares if the energy is a good price and is reliable. Nobody cares about Canada's clean energy, and it's not like we're exporting our energy to the world at crazy speeds, but apparently, we are an energy superpower. We could be, but we're not because we're suppressing this industry.
That's just coming in. Prime Minister Mark Carney says Canada will not use energy or critical minerals as leverage in trade talks with the United States. Now, the Prime Minister made the remarks in an interview with the Canadian press. Carney said he doesn't consider those sectors as leverage since Canada is not talking about stopping any sort of existing trade. In the interview, Carney also said that he thinks the existing CUSMA agreement will largely remain intact.
That is probably the most idiotic thing that I have ever heard somebody say. Why wouldn't you use your highly profitable resources as leverage that literally runs the world? Trump wants to negotiate a deal with Carney. We're not the only ones they've put tariffs on, and everybody knows that they've had to make a deal with America because America is a superpower, and we need to make deals with America whether we like it or not. Oh, but Carney's excuse now is that he won't make a bad deal. No, they won't make a deal at all. He won't, or he can't, which means that he's incompetent. The Americans have said that there isn't a grown-up in Canada and that it's irresponsible of Mark Carney to not negotiate with America because elbows up. Pete Hoekstra said that Canada has not had serious negotiations since October. Of course not, because they think that our relationship with America is a weakness, that America is unreliable, and everybody who supports this nonsense that the Liberals are pushing has TDS, which the Liberals take advantage of, or they have their own house paid off, a cushy pension, and are not affected by what's going on in Canada today. The Liberal voters think that moving away from America is a good thing. What? No other trade around the entire world would even compare to what we could achieve if we just worked with America. But we can't because Trump is bad, everybody, and we don't like his bluntness and we don't like his tariffs. Yeah, well, I argue that at this point, it's the Liberals' fault that we have tariffs. Because they're not even trying to make a deal. They're not even trying to negotiate. So they're basically saying to all the industry workers, well, we're not going to get a bad deal. So everybody's going to have to start losing their jobs. And we're not going to get a deal because we refuse to get a bad deal. Well, we're in a pretty bad situation right now. I think any deal is a good deal at this point. No matter how many MOUs and agreements, which are completely meaningless, that we sign with other countries other than America, we are too heavily integrated with the United States. We need to work with America. And yes, of course, diversify, fine, whatever. But we have free trade with many other countries. Nothing compares to free trade with America, which we do not have. But elbows up, right? That slogan will literally be the end of Canada. And it is so ironic and so funny because these tariffs are causing industries to shut down and move to America, which is exactly what Trump wants. Is that what elbows up means? Because that is exactly what's happening. A hemorrhage to the United States in industry and brains. People coming out of CEGEP and universities, they're going to America because they know that there is no hope for them here. Now, listen to Tim Hodgson, our energy minister, talking about pipelines and energy.
Have surged again this week, making it really difficult for people, for regular Canadians, in spite of the excise tax break that the government gave people. It's still going up. I wonder whether you see increased opportunity for Canadian energy, though, because of this conflict that the world finds itself in.
What we see is our allies all around the world calling Canada and saying, what's happened in Ukraine, what's happened in the Middle East is making it abundantly clear. Energy security is national security, and many of our allies around the world are really struggling, and things are much worse in those countries than they are here in Canada because we have security of supply. And as they look around the world and look to diversify who they buy from, they see Canada and our ability to get our natural gas to Tidewater, our ability to get our oil to Tidewater as incredibly attractive. They say you are a reliable supplier. You are a reliable ally who will not use energy for coercion. You are a reliable who believes in the rules-based order. You're a country that honors its contracts. We'd like to do more business with you.
So which is it? Are they for pipelines or not? Like, what is this guy saying? Seriously, saying that all these countries, the whole world, the entire world is calling Canada because they want our reliable energy. But we don't have pipelines. Like, yeah, they want our energy, so they'll go to America and get our energy that America's bought from us. Like, it's so ridiculous. And will they approve of the pipeline that Trump just signed with Alberta? Because this new pipeline deal with Alberta, it needs government approval for the project to cross the border. So what are they going to do about this? It's all talk and zero action with regard to what could make us an energy superpower, sovereign, actually strong. Our oil and gas industry is the key, but they're not doing anything about it. They talk a big game. Oh, it's important that we get our energy to Tidewater. So get out of the way and let industry build. Let it happen. So moving on. Okay, I got to get to this story. So Carney has announced $270 million going to, you guessed it, Ukraine. Now listen carefully to what he says here.
The most efficient use for your time? Okay, you have two options. The first option is I drone on for 12 of the 13 minutes or whatever it is, and take one question. And the second is that I take your question. So okay. Alors, vas-y donc.
Sir, Ukraine, fairly significant announcement today. What's that going to buy?
Well, so there's a system. It's actually, we started ramping up a little more than a year ago, it's basically the prioritized military equipment for the Ukraine. So it's prioritized by Ukraine. The PEARL acronym is prioritized Ukrainian, and so there are a series of packages that are made available. Canada has participated in a number of them. They're not divisible as packaged. You can't send part of the missile system. You have to send the whole thing. And with this money, we're going to be able to complete one of the packages with some Nordic partners, with Belgium and others. So the president was not surprising. President Zelensky was grateful. I'd stress a couple of things, and then I'll hand back. The first is that the munitions are being made available. Munitions, a broad, loose term, being made available by the Americans. So it's a question of financing and getting them there. We're doing that. We're getting them there. That's the first point. Second, we had made a commitment earlier this year in February, $2.4 billion for Ukraine.
So basically, they're buying munitions from America to send over to Ukraine. So that $270 million is, like, some of it's going to America to buy their munitions. Elbows up, everybody. First of all, what a joke. Why are we sending any money to Ukraine at all when Canadians are lined up by the millions at food banks? Oh, but Chrystia Freeland is Zelensky's economic advisor. Why are we continuously giving away billions of our money that should be providing for Canadians over to Ukraine when they hold between $10 and $26 trillion in natural resources? Do they really need our money? We need to stop sending our money to Ukraine and start using it to make Canada actually prosperous. It is a complete disgrace that they even send a penny over there when Canada is in the state that it's in. Disgusting. That should be all for today, everybody. I hope that you like this episode. If you do, share it with a friend, share it with a family member, somebody who you think might benefit from listening to this. And I hope that you have a beautiful Monday. And I will see you on Wednesday.